Welcome to the Beyond the Horizon podcast. This is the first episode in a series of monthly cybersecurity news reviews taken from Enable Head Nerd Lewis Pope's office hours. So, whether you're an MSP or an MSSP or a CISO, expect this to become your go-to podcast for the latest in cybersecurity threats. This month, we're turning our attention to the continued threat from SALT Typhoon, Microsoft Cloud Logging, Chrome Browser Extension Hijacking Attacks, and the need to plan for undersea cable attacks in your threat modeling. And now, over to Lewis.
For security news for the month, SALT Typhoon persists. We talked about this last month. This is a People's Republic of China APT group. They have done a lot in the past couple of months that it's come to light. Initially, it was their compromise of telecom companies, and that extended out in December to an announcement of a compromise of the US Department of Treasury workstations, where information was apparently exfiltrated. Also, a little bit more came out about the initial discovery of SALT Typhoon, how they were picked out and discovered. They were first found in federal networks. That information allowed the feds to discover infrastructure, tactics, techniques, and procedures, convey those down to the private sector and help them into the critical infrastructure sector and help them find them. So what we've heard about so far is probably not the last of it. We will probably hear even more about them over the coming weeks and days between SALT Typhoon and the other Chinese APT groups. The CISA is encouraging because of this, and the call has gone out to encourage everyone to report cyber incidents, because a threat to one is a threat to many. That the critical infrastructure, but there's no reason why everybody else can't follow their recommendation to follow secure by design principles. They're asking for critical infrastructure organizations to double down on resilience efforts concerning PRC efforts, and that they treat them as real and persistent. So this is about as loud as they can ring the bell and sound the alarms that this should be taken seriously, especially for anyone who is taking care of critical infrastructure clients, medical clients, basically anybody on which society relies. CISA is also advising the expansion of Microsoft Cloud Logging. They have published a playbook that's available, and I have a link in the handout so you can go find this. It's about enabling advanced logging that is available in Microsoft Cloud. It is targeted towards those that are using E3 or higher licensing. So not a lot of your partners are likely to be using E3 and higher licenses, but it's of value to you to go look at this playbook and read and see what is available and what is recommended at those levels, if nothing else than to just become familiar and better understand the gap that exists between Microsoft business licenses, premium license, E2 licenses, P1, P2s, understanding what is and is not available to you at those levels that you're missing out on. Because there is a lot of security event information that is lost whenever this type of advanced logging is not enabled. And it also will kind of pull back the curtains on why this type of information is so critical for incident response and post-incident investigations. It's simply a case of, if this is not enabled, evidence is lost, knowledge is lost. So whenever a IR team comes in to investigate a major incident, they are going to be without. There's going to be data that's missing that they will not be able to recover, and they will just have to move on without that knowledge, which of course can impact the quality of the reports, the timing of them, the ability to define initial compromise of the environment, any pivoting that threat attackers may have done, any persistence they may have been able to set up for themselves. there's a lot of that information that's lost when you don't have this logging. Also, something of note, not that this is a new thing, but it has came back up again because of a particular Chrome extension, browser extension hijacking attacks. These are web browser supply chain attacks where through some means a browser extension is lost control of. Whoever originally wrote that extension loses control over it through either selling the product, selling the extension to a third party, having the credentials for the administrator account for the Google store being stolen, as was the case for Cyberhaven, one of their administrator accounts for the Google Chrome store that has the extension available. They were hit with a phishing attack. The recommendations from Cyberhaven is if you are using their extension, you should be rotating your passwords, your API tokens, and any other authentication credentials that may have been used or associated with your Chrome browsing behaviors. And again, this is not the first or the last time where an attack has happened where somebody has lost control of their extension and attackers have added either made malicious changes or outright changed the whole extension for a malicious payload. It demonstrates that there is a need to monitor and control extensions installed on web browsers. Now, this is not something that's streamlined and something you can just set a setting in one place and it's taken care of everywhere. This is something where you need established processes and procedures, an audit procedure, and monitoring that you're doing through your RMM solution of choice, or if you're lucky enough to be managing clients that are using Google Workspace or Google Administrator accounts, you can control a little bit there with Chrome. You can also use Insight and InCentral. If you go check out in the cookbook, we have scripts that allow you to touch and manipulate your browser extensions, and those could be used also to facilitate you finding and monitoring what extensions are installed, and then taking action whenever extensions that don't belong are found. And you have to really treat browser extensions the same way you treat any other application from a risk management perspective. If there's not a business purpose for it, it should not be in the environment. It should not be in use. LOLRMM, this is a open source project that I came across recently. It is a living off the land's RMM list. So it's a list of remote monitoring and management tools that are used for legitimate purposes, but they can also be used for malicious actions by threat actors. You've probably already heard or seen attacks before that happened because a threat actor took advantage of a free RMM tool or a free remote access tool, or sometimes even just trial versions of RMM tools to act as C2 controllers or to facilitate them gaining access to clients to target systems. This is a great list for you to familiarize yourself with, for one, first, just so you know the breadth and depth of the options that are available out there. There's quite a few pages of tools listed, but also building a process around this. I would highly recommend that you build some type of monitoring, some type of alerting, some type of auditing process so that you can check to see if any of these RMM tools are running in your client's environments. I personally would take the view that if I found one of these in my client's environments, well, I don't use the tool, so that's probably a red flag, and that system needs to immediately be quarantined on the network, and we need to begin an instant response. If you set up this capability and you start finding these RMM tools, they can be indicators of shadow IT, which might be, give you a heads up or be a churn indicator for clients as well, for either they're trying to do it themselves or they have brought in a third party to perhaps displace you. It can also be indicators of insider threats or external threat actors trying to gain access to an environment. And we talked about this last month as well, but we're bringing it back up again. The importance of threat modeling undersea cable cuts. Depending on where you are in the world, the clients you support, the services that your clients have, the business to business relationships they have, the impact of a undersea telecommunications cable being cut can vary from no impact to a business cannot operate. So I encouraged last month to begin using this in your threat modeling to understand the risk exposure of yourself and your clients. There have been more incidents. The most recent one was a undersea cable in Taiwan was hit by a Hong Kong flagged ship. This is not the first time a PRC associated ship has damaged undersea cables in Taiwan. So this is not a occurrence that's rare and potentially could never happen. This is something that has happened, will likely continue to happen, and you need to take it into account. And this is also a course of concern with Russia. This has been a tactic they have supposedly been using with their shadow fleets of tankers and other transport vessels. And there are efforts underway by some countries to try and begin getting this under control. But this is one of those things of you really can't stop this. There's nothing you can do but accept that it could happen. And if it does happen, you have plans in place for how to deal with it.